The sun had just begun to set over the rolling hills when Detective Harper first laid eyes on the town of Ashwood. At first glance, it looked like any other quiet, rural settlement, weathered brick houses lining narrow streets, smoke curling from chimneys and the faint scent of pine hanging in the air. Yet, as she drove closer, an unease settled in her chest. There were no signs of life, no movement, not even a dog bark or a child's laughter. The town was eerily still, as if it had been frozen in time. It was the night of June 14th when the emergency call came in. The town of Ashwood. Everyone's gone, just vanished. Harper had heard strange reports before, people disappearing in isolated areas, but nothing of this scale. When she arrived, the silence was absolute. Cars sat abandoned in driveways, doors stood ajar, and meals were left uneaten on kitchen tables. The clock in the town hall read 2:17 p.m., as if time itself had stopped. Her partner, Officer Grant, muttered under his breath, "It's like everyone just left." But Harper could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on her. She stepped out of the cruiser, her boots crunching against the gravel road, and surveyed the street. There was no note, no sign of a struggle, no footprints leading out of town. Every window reflected the fading sunlight, and for a moment, Harper swore she saw someone moving in the shadows, but when she blinked, there was nothing. The investigation began in earnest. Forensic teams swept through the houses, cataloging belongings and searching for clues. Inside one of the homes on Maple Street, a meal was frozen mid-bite, a fork stabbed into a salad, a cup of coffee steaming slightly as if it had been recently poured. The beds were neatly made, the laundry folded, the television still humming with static. There were no signs of a forced exit. It was as though every resident had simply disappeared into thin air. The more Harper explored, the more questions piled up. In the town library, she found journals belonging to several families. The entries were mundane: school, work, chores, until the last page. One journal, belonging to a teenage girl named Lila Crawford, ended mid-sentence. "I think someone is watching us, and I'm..." The page was smudged, the ink smeared, as if something had scraped it away. Harper's stomach churned. Had the inhabitants sensed some danger before vanishing? Outside, the wind picked up, rustling the leaves and carrying faint whispers. Harper wasn't sure if it was her imagination, or if the town itself seemed alive in some unsettling way. Grant shivered beside her. "We've checked every building. Nobody's here, no one at all." The town's history offered no comfort. Ashwood had been established over a century ago, a thriving community that had slowly dwindled over the decades. There had been rumors of strange occurrences, lights in the forest, unexplained sounds, but nothing substantial. Locals from nearby towns had long whispered about Ashwood being cursed, a place where misfortune lingered like a shadow. Yet Harper was a detective grounded in facts, and she refused to yield to superstition. Her first night in Ashwood brought more questions than answers. As darkness fell, the street lamps flickered on and cast long shadows across empty streets. The silence was deafening. Harper and Grant sat up in the old town hall, hoping to catch any signs of life or clues, overlooked by the initial sweep. Hours passed, nothing. And then, at precisely 2:17 a.m., the same time the clock had frozen, they heard it, the faint sound of footsteps echoing from the town square. Harper's heart raced, but when she turned, the square was empty. The investigators began to piece together what little evidence they had. Cars were left running, radios still on, doors unlocked. Personal items, pets, even livestock were abandoned. Whoever or whatever had taken the town had done so with startling precision. And yet, there were no signs of a conventional crime. No ransom demands, no traces of violence, no indication of mass panic. Harper reviewed the surveillance footage from a few private homes. The cameras had captured nothing unusual until the final frame of each tape. Every recording ended with a sudden inexplicable static, like a radio tuning into another frequency. And in that static, if one looked closely, shadowy shapes seemed to move just beyond the edges of the screen. It was then that Harper realized this was no ordinary disappearance. Ashwood was not just empty, it was a mystery that defied logic, a riddle wrapped in silence and shadow. Whoever or whatever had come for the town had left nothing behind, except questions. And Harper knew that to uncover the truth, she would have to face not just the unexplained, but the possibility that the answers might be darker than anything she had ever imagined. The following morning, Harper and Grant decided to expand their search beyond the town center. Ashwood stretched over several square miles, and while the main streets were deserted, the outskirts held abandoned farms, overgrown fields, and dense patches of forest. Every step through the tall grass revealed remnants of lives, interrupted children's toys rusting in the sun, a broken bicycle half buried in dirt, garden tools left where they had last been used. At one farmstead on the edge of town, Harper noticed something strange. The family car, a rust-colored sedan, was parked neatly in the driveway, keys in the ignition. There were no footprints leading to or from it, yet the doors were unlocked. Grant crouched beside it, examining the interior. "It's like they just stepped out, but where did they go?" he asked, his voice tinged with unease. Harper didn't answer immediately. Her eyes were drawn to the back seat, where a small notebook lay open, the pages fluttering in the breeze. Scribbled inside were frantic notes. "They are coming. Watch. The shadows. Do not leave the house. It's not safe." Harper felt a chill run down her spine. Whoever had written these warnings had vanished without a trace. She snapped photos and carefully bagged the notebook as evidence. Back at the town hall, the team compared notes. Forensic analysts scoured the farm and surrounding area, searching for any biological traces, tire tracks, or signs of struggle. They found none. The ground was undisturbed, as if the residents had simply been erased from existence. Interviews with neighbors in nearby towns provided no clarity. Some claimed to have seen Ashwood's residents acting strangely in the days leading up to the disappearance, walking silently in pairs, staring into the forest for hours, and leaving doors open at odd hours. Others reported hearing whispers in the night, though no one could confirm the source. Harper noted a recurring theme: unease, anxiety, and an almost ritualistic preparation for something unseen. That evening, Harper returned to the forest bordering Ashwood. The trees were dense, shadows twisting in the fading light. She had brought infrared cameras and audio recorders, hoping to capture anything that might explain the mass disappearance. As she ventured deeper, the air grew colder, almost unnaturally. So, her breath fogged in front of her, and the forest was alive with faint sounds: twigs snapping, leaves rustling, but there was no wind. Harper's instincts screamed that she was not alone. Then she saw it, a faint glow between the trees, pulsing rhythmically. Harper approached cautiously, every muscle tense. The glow emanated from a small clearing, where the ground appeared disturbed, like it had been recently excavated. Scattered around were objects belonging to Ashwood residents: a child's stuffed animal, a pair of glasses, a journal. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of damp earth and something metallic, something almost alive. Suddenly, the glow intensified, blinding Harper. She stumbled back, fumbling for her radio, but the signal was dead. Grant's voice crackled once through the static, then nothing. Harper's heart pounded in her chest as the shadows in the clearing shifted unnaturally, forming shapes that seemed to observe her. A whisper reached her ears, so faint she questioned if it was real. "Leave, before it's too late." Harper retreated to the edge of the forest, shaken but resolute. She recorded everything she had seen and documented the eerie items in the clearing. Back at the town hall, the team analyzed the objects and the soil samples. Strange anomalies appeared: traces of an unknown chemical element, footprints that didn't match any known human pattern, and most disturbingly, recordings of audio static that seemed to contain faint, indecipherable voices. The investigation took a darker turn when Harper examined the town's archives. Ashwood had a history far older than anyone had assumed. Decades-old reports spoke of mysterious disappearances, strange lights, and unexplainable phenomena in the surrounding forests. Residents from generations past had left journals describing shadows moving independently, whispers echoing at night, and a pervasive sense of being watched. Harper realized that the recent vanishing was not an isolated event. It was part of a pattern that spanned decades. As night fell, Harper returned to the main street, flashlight in hand, documenting abandoned homes, Each house told a story of lives interrupted, kitchen tables set for dinner, photographs left on walls, radio still playing faint music. The eerie stillness was punctuated by an occasional creak or whisper, as if the town itself was alive, remembering the people it had swallowed. Harper's mind raced with possibilities, but every logical explanation fell short. By the end of the second day, Harper knew one thing for certain. Ashwood's disappearance was not a random event. There was intent behind it, a calculated precision that defied human understanding. And somewhere, hidden in the forest or perhaps in the very shadows of the town, the answers waited, answers that could change everything she believed about reality itself. Harper spent the night poring over the archived journals and documents from Ashwood, her office dimly lit by a single lamp. One diary, belonging to a woman named Lillian Carter from the 1960s, contained accounts eerily similar to what Harper had witnessed: whispered voices in the trees, sudden cold drafts indoors, and fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures that seemed almost human but moved in unnatural ways. Lillian had written about neighbors disappearing one by one, leaving only personal items behind. The last entry was hastily scrawled: "They are in the woods. They are waiting. Don't trust the lights. Don't answer the calls." Harper shivered. The next morning, Harper and Grant returned to the forest, determined to investigate the glowing clearing further. Using metal detectors, soil probes, and infrared cameras, they mapped out the disturbed areas. Something beneath the soil emitted low-level heat signatures, but the readings were inconsistent with any known machine or living organism. Grant knelt beside a mound and carefully brushed away dirt, revealing a strange geometric pattern etched into the ground lines, intersecting at precise angles, forming a symbol neither of them recognized. As they worked, Harper noticed movement among the trees. Shadows elongated unnaturally, stretching across the ground. A windless breeze carried whispers that seemed to respond to their conversation. Grant's voice quivered as he spoke. "Harper, do you hear that?" The whispers were barely audible but unmistakably human in cadence, repeating fragments of sentences. "Go back. They're watching. Don't." Harper activated the audio recorders and continued documenting. As the sun climbed higher, the forest seemed to shift around them. Trails that had appeared clear the day before now seemed to loop back on themselves, creating a disorienting labyrinth. Even the compass on Harper's phone fluctuated erratically, spinning as if caught in a magnetic anomaly. Returning to the clearing, Harper uncovered more personal effects belonging to Ashwood residents. A woman's scarf, a pocket watch stopped at exactly 3:07 p.m., and a child's wooden toy splintered as if dropped in haste. Harper bagged each item carefully, photographing and recording every detail. The objects had been untouched by weather or decay, almost as if frozen in time. Back at the town hall, forensic analysis revealed bizarre findings. Soil samples contained microscopic crystalline structures unknown to science and residue on the kosa. Objects suggested an unknown chemical reaction had occurred. Acoustic analysis of the forest recordings revealed repeating patterns that mimicked human speech, though no one had been present when the audio was captured. Harper hypothesized that Ashwood might be subject to some kind of spatial or temporal anomaly, an event that displaced people in ways science could not yet explain. Harper's research also uncovered a forgotten local legend, the Watcher of Ashwood, a figure said to roam the forests, appearing as a shadow among the trees. Descriptions varied, but the recurring theme was of an observer with eyes that glowed faintly in darkness. Some accounts claimed the Watcher could manipulate reality, erasing people from existence, leaving only traces of their lives behind. Harper documented these legends carefully, noting correlations with the timing and location of historical disappearances. By late afternoon, Harper and Grant decided to investigate the perimeter of the forest beyond the clearing. As they approached the edge, a faint light flickered in the distance, resembling lanterns moving slowly between the trees. Harper's stomach tightened. This was unlike anything she had seen before: organized, deliberate movement, but with no visible source of human figures. They moved closer, cautiously, keeping low and observing. The lights flickered in patterns, almost as if communicating. Harper whispered into her recorder. This could be a ritual. Or a warning. We don't yet know which. Suddenly, a distant sound of metal scraping echoed through the trees. Grant froze. Harper aimed her flashlight toward the source, but saw nothing, only the swaying shadows of the underbrush. The lights vanished as quickly as they appeared, leaving Harper and Grant standing in an unsettling silence. The forest seemed to exhale, the air heavy with anticipation. When they returned to town, Harper reviewed footage from the infrared cameras. Faint, indistinct figures moved through the trees, too fast and fluid to be human. One figure seemed to approach the camera directly, halting just out of focus, as if aware it was being observed. Harper zoomed in, enhancing the image. She felt a chill as the figure's shape solidified. Tall, shadowed, impossibly thin, and somehow, watching. The team convened to discuss their findings. Harper emphasized the urgency. Ashwood's anomaly was active, and if the pattern of disappearances was consistent, more people could be at risk. We're not just documenting history, she said. We're standing on the edge of it, and whatever lies beyond could reach us too. As night fell, Harper returned alone to the clearing, hoping to capture more evidence. The glowing lights reappeared, pulsing rhythmically. She set up cameras, audio recorders, and even motion sensors. Then she noticed a figure emerging slowly from the shadows. Its movements were deliberate, almost ceremonial. Harper's heart raced. She activated the infrared recorder and whispered into her microphone, "Whatever you are, we mean no harm." The figure paused, then, with astonishing speed, disappeared into the undergrowth. A low hum filled the clearing, vibrating through Harper's chest. She realized with growing dread that Ashwood's secret was not only alive, it was aware, and it had been waiting for someone to come looking. Morning broke over the perimeter of Ashwood with an uneasy calm. Harper's mind was restless, replaying the previous night's encounter over and over. The figure in the clearing had moved with purpose, almost as if guiding her towards something or warning her away. She met Grant at the town's library, a structure that had somehow survived decades of neglect. Together, they pored over property records, old newspapers, and census documents. Harper's hands trembled slightly as she flipped through a series of photographs, dated decades apart, each showing the same forest, yet with faint shapes barely discernible in the backgrounds. Shadowy figures whose outlines defied human form. Grant leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "It's like the forest itself absorbs people," he said, "or at least hides them. These figures, they're always there, watching, but not intervening until now." Harper nodded, noting that even the oldest maps of Ashwood indicated a strange anomaly, a circular area around the clearing where all surveys, measurements, and boundaries were inconsistently documented, almost as if the land itself refused to be recorded. They ventured out once more, determined to track the pattern of disturbances. Harper carried a portable spectrometer, temperature sensors, and motion detectors. Grant, a drone equipped with thermal imaging. As they entered the clearing, the ground beneath their feet seemed to pulse faintly, a rhythm barely perceptible, almost like a heartbeat. Harper paused to take readings. The instruments fluctuated wildly, indicating energy patterns that defied explanation. Grant maneuvered the drone overhead, scanning for any signs of human or animal life. The camera feed flickered, capturing brief, indistinct shadows that appeared and disappeared between trees, moving too fluidly to be human. At the edge of the clearing, Harper noticed what appeared to be faint footprints leading into the deeper forest. The soil around them was unnaturally compacted, forming a path that seemed freshly made, yet undisturbed by leaves or debris. Following the trail, they came upon a small stream, where the water shimmered with an almost metallic iridescence. Harper knelt to collect samples, noticing that the water was inexplicably warm despite the chilly morning air. The drone's feed revealed more figures along the banks, ethereal and semi-transparent, watching without moving. Back in town, Harper examined historical accounts of Ashwood. Newspaper clippings detailed people vanishing in the forest, a family in 1948, a group of hikers in 1967, a traveling salesman in 1983. Each disappearance coincided with peculiar environmental phenomena fog that appeared overnight. Strange. Lights among the trees, whispers reported in multiple, unrelated accounts. Harper realized with mounting dread that the town's vanished residents had all been absorbed into the same anomaly she was now investigating firsthand. That evening, Harper returned alone to the clearing. The air was heavy, almost viscous, and the windless forest seemed to pulse with energy. The lights appeared again, this time forming intricate patterns spiraling around her. She activated a night vision camera and moved closer, documenting every detail. The whispering voices returned, clearer this time, forming fragmented phrases. They came, the Watchers, never leave. They're not gone. Harper shivered, recording the audio and noting that the voices seemed to correspond with the pulsing of the ground beneath her feet. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, taller and more defined than before. It moved deliberately, stopping just a few meters away. Harper spoke softly, trying not to alarm it. "I'm just here to understand. I won't disturb you." The figure tilted its head, then vanished, leaving a faint residue of cold air and the faint metallic scent of the stream. Harper realized the anomaly was not static. It interacted, observed, and perhaps even judged those who entered its domain. She spent the following days interviewing locals who had left Ashwood decades ago. Each account hinted at something alive in the forest, something that could sense presence and manipulate perception. One elderly man spoke of waking to the sound of whispers, then finding his family gone by morning. Another described lights moving in impossible patterns, like stars, fallen into the trees. Harper recorded these testimonies meticulously, noting recurring details that aligned eerily with her own observations. By midweek, Harper and Grant discovered what appeared to be the remnants of a campsite from one of the missing families. Burnt logs, a partially collapsed tent, and personal items untouched by time. Among the debris, Harper found a journal written in neat, deliberate handwriting. The last entry read, "We see them. They know we're here. If you find this, beware the lights. The forest does not forgive curiosity." Harper's blood ran cold. She held in her hands the voice of someone lost to the forest decades ago. A warning she was now compelled to heed. As night fell once more, Harper returned to the clearing, determined to capture final evidence. The lights appeared again, brighter, more organized. They moved in spirals, converging toward a central point. Harper held her camera steady, documenting every flicker. Then, a faint hum filled the air, low and resonant, vibrating through her chest. From the center of the lights, a figure emerged, tall, impossibly thin, shrouded in shadow. Harper's voice trembled as she whispered into the recorder, "We're watching. We need to understand." The figure halted, and for a brief moment, Harper felt as though the forest itself was looking back, weighing her presence. Then, in an instant, the lights vanished, leaving her in total darkness, the hum dissipating like a sigh. Harper knew one thing with certainty: Ashwood's secret was alive, and it had now acknowledged her intrusion. The following morning, Harper returned to the town with a sense of urgency. The events of the clearing had left her unsettled, but a part of her knew that understanding Ashwood's mystery required confronting the anomalies head-on. She convened with Grant at the old town hall, a skeletal structure that still held remnants of the past: peeling paint, rusted fixtures, and stacks of yellowed newspapers. Together, they cross-referenced the journal she had found with other historical records. Noticing an unnerving pattern, every documented disappearance in Ashwood coincided with a lunar cycle, specifically nights when the moon was full, or nearly full. Grant frowned, studying a map. "It's like the forest itself is synced to some natural rhythm. These disappearances aren't random. They're planned, or at least triggered by something environmental we don't understand." Harper nodded, noting that even eyewitness accounts from decades ago described luminous phenomena only appearing at night, often following the moon's trajectory. Determined to gather more concrete evidence, Harper and Grant equipped themselves with advanced recording devices, drones, and thermal cameras. They approached the clearing once more at dusk. The air was thick with mist, the trees casting long, distorted shadows. As twilight fell, the same lights appeared, moving in patterns more complex than before, almost like a choreographed display. Harper's pulse quickened. This was no natural phenomenon. She whispered into the recorder, "It's intentional. Someone or something is directing these lights." Suddenly, one of the drones picked up movement on the periphery, a cluster of semi-transparent figures, hovering slightly above the ground. Their forms were vaguely human, yet distorted, elongated, and wavering as if caught between dimensions. Harper and Grant approached cautiously, noting that the figures seemed to react to their presence, adjusting their positions in subtle, deliberate ways. One figure moved closer, and Harper felt a strange sensation, like an invisible pressure pressing against her chest. She recorded everything, documenting the energy readings, temperature fluctuations, and the strange hum that resonated through the clearing. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the soil, trees, and even the air around them. Harper realized it was not a simple sound. It was a signal, a communication method of sorts. The forest was alive, and it was speaking in a language she could almost comprehend. Later, reviewing the footage in the town hall, Harper noticed something she had not seen in real time. Subtle symbols etched into the bark of nearby trees, almost invisible to the naked eye. They appeared geometric, precise, and repeated in patterns across multiple trees, suggesting intentional design. Some symbols corresponded with points on old maps she had collected, forming an interconnected network across the forest. It was as if the forest had been deliberately marked to guide or trap any intruders. Determined to decode the symbols, Harper began consulting with experts in cryptography, anthropology, and folklore. One cryptographer suggested the markings resembled ancient runes, used historically for navigation or ceremonial purposes. The anthropologist, however, theorized they might serve as warning signs, a way to communicate danger or territorial boundaries. Each interpretation confirmed Harper's growing fear. The forest was not merely a backdrop, it was an active participant in Ashwood's disappearances. Night fell again, and Harper ventured back into the clearing alone. This time, the lights were brighter, more focused, and the temperature dropped sharply. She followed the path indicated by the symbols, leading her to a shallow depression in the forest floor. The ground here pulsed faintly, echoing the rhythm she had felt during previous encounters. Harper knelt to take samples, noting that the soil contained anomalous minerals and traces of organic material that could not be immediately identified. As she documented her findings, the lights coalesced into a spiraling vortex above the depression, and Harper felt herself drawn toward it. She resisted, taking detailed measurements, but the pull was undeniable. Then, she heard voices faint, whispering fragments, repeating the same warning she had read in the journal. "Do not disturb. Do not enter. We are here." Harper's recorder captured every syllable, but the words seemed to resonate directly inside her mind, bypassing her ears entirely. Returning to town at dawn, Harper confronted Grant with her recordings and findings. "This isn't just a forest anomaly," she said. "The entire ecosystem is conscious in some way. It has been observing, interacting, and collecting." Grant's face went pale. "Collected? You mean, like the people who vanished?" Harper nodded grimly, determined to understand the fate of the town's missing residents. Harper dug deeper into archival records, finding letters, diaries, and photographs long thought lost. Each artifact bore subtle signs of the forests, present smudges, faint imprints, and distortions consistent with the energy readings they had recorded. It became increasingly clear that Ashwood's vanishings were not merely accidents, they were orchestrated, the result of the forest asserting control over anyone who entered its domain. By the fifth night, Harper returned to the clearing one last time before attempting a deeper incursion. The lights appeared immediately, forming a radiant hypnotic spiral above the ground. Shadows moved along its edges, appearing to guide her path. Harper whispered into her recorder, documenting her every observation, her fear now tempered by determination. "I can feel it watching, but I need to know. The town, the people, they left something behind, and I have to find it." As the night deepened, the vortex pulsed more violently, the whispers merging into coherent phrases. "They came. They lingered. They remember." Harper realized that whatever force governed the forest was not malevolent in the traditional sense. It was a sentient guardian, preserving Ashwood's secrets and controlling the movement of those who dared enter. And she understood with chilling clarity, uncovering the town's ultimate fate would require venturing farther than anyone had dared in decades. Deeper into the forest's enigmatic heart, Harper stood at the edge of the deepest part of the forest, her equipment humming faintly in the oppressive darkness. The energy readings were off the charts, the air thick with a pressure she could almost touch. Every instinct screamed for her to retreat, but she knew she had come too far to turn back. The forest was alive, sentient, and it was now fully aware of her presence. As she moved forward, the lights intensified, forming a spiraling tunnel that seemed to descend into the earth itself. Shadows danced along the edges, shifting with a rhythm that felt deliberate, almost communicative. Harper whispered into her recorder, "This is it, the heart of Ashwood. Everything, the vanishings, the anomalies, the markings, they all lead here." She stepped into the vortex, and the world around her distorted. Sounds warped, colors shifted, and the ground beneath her feet seemed to breathe. Harper's heart pounded as ghostly apparitions emerged from the swirling lights. Familiar faces, vaguely human, yet altered by the forest's energy, the missing townspeople of Ashwood. They drifted silently, motionless but aware, trapped between dimensions, their eyes reflecting both longing and warning. Aware, trapped between dimensions, their eyes reflecting both longing and warning, the whispers coalesced into a single resonant voice, echoing through Harper's mind. They came to see, to understand, to remember. But the forest keeps balance, it does not forget. Harper realized that Ashwood was not just a town, it was a sentinel, preserving a boundary between realities. The vanishings were the forest's way of maintaining equilibrium, collecting those who strayed too far into its domain. Harper documented everything, every spectral figure, every sound, every pulse of energy. She reached out toward one of the apparitions, a young woman who smiled faintly, almost knowingly, before dissipating into the light. A surge of understanding passed through Harper. These people were not dead, not entirely. They existed in a suspended state, a liminal space controlled by the forest's consciousness. Desperate to preserve her own reality, Harper began retracing her steps, following the geometric patterns she had observed in the symbols. Each step felt like navigating a living maze, the forest subtly shifting to test her resolve. The lights pulsed faster, the whispers growing urgent. "Remember, leave, do not linger." Harper obeyed, marking her path meticulously to ensure she could escape without becoming part of the forest's collection. Finally, she emerged from the vortex into the clearing, dawn breaking over the horizon. The lights faded, leaving only the mist and the familiar outlines of trees. Harper collapsed, exhausted but alive, her equipment filled with recordings that would forever document Ashwood's enigma. She knew she had witnessed something beyond conventional understanding, a sentient ecosystem that defied logic, a force that controlled space, time, and perception itself. Returning to town, Harper shared her findings cautiously, aware that few would believe her. Scientists, historians, and cryptographers pored over her data, each confirming the anomalies, yet unable to explain the conscious, directive nature of the forest. Harper understood that some mysteries were not meant to be fully unraveled. The forest was both a warning and a protector, and its secrets were not hers to reveal entirely. Weeks later, Harper visited the outskirts of the forest one last time. She stood silently, observing the clearing where the vortex had appeared. The whispers were faint, almost gentle now, as if acknowledging her survival. She whispered a silent vow to respect the forest's boundaries, to remember Ashwood's vanished souls, and to share only what could be safely shared. With a final glance at the misty forest, Harper turned away, knowing that Ashwood would remain forever enigmatic, a town frozen in time, preserved by forces beyond human comprehension. Her recordings, her notes, and her observations would serve as a bridge between the known and the unknown, a testimony to those who vanished into the sentient wilderness that had claimed them. As the screen fades to black, Harper's voice concludes, "Some places are not meant to be fully understood. Some disappearances are not mere accidents, Ashwood reminds us that the line between reality and the unknown is thinner than we think, and some mysteries are better left undisturbed. And with that, a cinematic-style call to action appears. If you found this story chilling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to uncover more mysterious true crime and unexplained stories. There's a world of enigmas waiting. Dare you step inside?